Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Mike DiMuccio. I'm your guest host for Ben's mentoring call today. We have a very, very busy schedule between the two of us and we're able to share the load, so I'm happy to do so. And he gave me license to do whatever I wanted. He made some suggestions, but in review of all that, something I thought that might help put the pieces of that together would be a reflection of both where we're at, where we've come from, and where we're going. So I'm going to switch there we go, to speaker view. Okay, great. I have a document that I just shared with everybody via our WhatsApp, and I'm going to ask you if you can either look at it and have a piece of paper and a pen beside you so you can actually make a recording of your numbers. I'm also going to ask, I'm just going to go ahead and mute. There we go. Excuse me one second. I think I've got, okay, that's all set up now. If you're not muted, please mute yourself. I've muted pretty much everybody I can see that's unmuted, but otherwise go ahead and mute yourself. Again, so a piece of paper, a pen, something to record this information. The document that I'm going to share with you was created literally in 2004, 2005. And it was part of a system that actually does exist. It's online, but has never been really publicly shared, called the Wellness Track. And a lot of the information you see and a lot of the materials that I produce come from that document, that track, which took me, yeah, you got it, it took me 2 years. Every day I worked on it, 2 years at my laptop to develop this thing called the Wellness Track. And it's the rhythm of the business, the architecture of this, looking at each rank, roles, responsibilities, et cetera, as it ties to the various activities that are necessary to grow a large international organization. It recognizes that we don't all do the same thing at the same time. There are some things we all do. Everyone, regardless of rank, of course, the most fundamental thing is contacting and inviting. Once we've done that, we engage people in a process of investigation, learning about NECAN and so forth. But then that's just the beginning of their journey. Once they are actually involved in NECAN, then they need to start looking at to what degree do they want to participate in NECAN? To what extent are they going to invest time and energy? And that's based on their objectives, which can change. Many of us started NECAN without thinking ever that it would become a career. And yet here we are, you know, for me, almost 29 years next week, or a couple of weeks from now, it'll be 29 years. So I would never have imagined 29 years ago when I was first being introduced to this, that this would have become my vocation, my career, my profession. So we adapt and we change and we either increase our commitment or decrease our commitment depending on where we are and how we take to this. But given that we advance in the business, there are things that we need to develop and learn and skill sets, et cetera, that help manage the affairs of our business, which include now the consideration that we have a downline that's also at some level of development. So it's recognizing where they are at when we're engaging them. And so I don't speak to or engage in the level of activity or conversation with, say, a frontline diamond or a downline diamond than I would for somebody who was maybe just a new executive. It's a different conversation. So recognizing those different roles, responsibilities, that is part of this concept. Well, anyway, what came from all of this 2 years of engineering and engineering the business model right to the nooks and crannies was a document that I thought was a necessary component of ensuring that whatever we're doing, whether I'm working with somebody brand new or somebody who's been in the business a while, whatever we're doing, as long as you and I are engaged, what brings us together is a common purpose. And most certainly that common purpose ought to be, what is your expectations? What are your objectives? And so quantifying that and reflecting on that, I think, is a critical component to success of any kind. What you measure
Hello,
matters.
doctor. Good morning.
Good morning, Stan Bogus. Oh, just muted him out. All right, so as I was saying, If you don't measure it, it signifies that it's not really important. So what you measure matters, and what you measure and recognize multiplies. So we don't want to just measure things. We also want to recognize them, which means we need to involve other people. And so this document was put together as a metric, a way of actually creating a relationship between you and your objective, and you and maybe your mentor, the person you're working with, to help you stay on track. It's kind of your GPS, your guidance system. And given that we're in the last month, we just came out of one of the biggest months in our company's history, certainly in the last 15 years. We're coming into the last month of the year 2020. We're moving into 2021 with a whole number of activities as we lay the foundation for Vision 2025. I think it's important that we start to take stock, that we measure what matters. Now, in Nikken, we talk about the philosophy of Nikken being the 5 pillars of health, or 5 pillars of wellness. The idea then is success in Nikken is not simply a measure of how well you're doing financially or how well you're doing physically. The real big story here, although those are components, the big story is how well are you doing in the 5 areas of wellness. Again, what you measure matters. And if you're not measuring it and taking stock of it, you might miss some very important information, either for you or the person you're working with. And I'll give you a simple example of this. Where this came from was years and years ago. I was in a presentation in Montreal, Canada, and I drew the circle, and I went around the room and I asked people at different ages in the business. If you've been in Nikken less than 6 months, if you've been in Nikken less than a year, less than 2 years, less than 5 years. So I took stock of basically where people are at in terms of their longevity with the company. And I asked them on a percentage basis, we went around each pillar. On a percentage basis, what percentage would you say you changed in this area? Body, mind, family, society, finances. Of course, what was very obvious to most people by the time I was done was the lion's share of change in the area of mind, body, family. The lion's share of change, where that's concerned, is at the beginning. There's big changes in how people feel physically when they start using the products. And of course, what lags behind is the financial. And yet most people think, no, I'm doing this for the money. But if you're doing this for the money, if that's ultimately your quest, your purpose, you want to create a business, and you don't take stock in the values, what has changed in your life, you may miss the idea of what you're really intrinsically getting in terms of an exchange for your time and energy. So I think it's really important that we measure all aspects of our 5 pillars of wellness, because as we progress, we will see those changes. You will start to notice, once you've been on the Nikken sleep system for a year, you're not going to say, oh, my sleep this year changed 50%. That's not going to happen. So those numbers will start to gradually level off. But what we see coming up in the back is the financial, as you're growing and multiplying your business because you're following this protocol. So I call it the GPS of Nikken, your personal GPS. It keeps you focused and on track and moving toward your ideal life, which is balance in the 5 pillars of wellness. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and take a look at this document, because I'd like you to actually measure yourself in each of these categories. And I'll go through them so that you have this as a tool going forward. I think, again, for self-evaluation, but please consider sharing this idea with somebody on your team, maybe even today. You can print this document. So first of all, a couple of weeks ago, I guess it was, on aligning with success, I went over this pyramid shaped idea here where
Excuse
structure,
me, Mike.
Yes.
Sorry, could you make it a higher percentage? Thank you. Just for the older people first.
There we go.
Wear our glasses. Thank you.
Is that better?
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for pointing this out. It's actually broken down into 2 categories. The top one is your personal success story review, which, by the way, I want us to refer to this, our journey in Nikken, as our personal success story. So when you're introducing Nikken to someone new and I say, tell them your personal success story, then you know what that means. You know what you're talking about. So let's make reference to our personal story as our personal success story, which means the shifts that have happened in our 5 pillars of wellness. So let's go. The second one is a review of the belief system. Why is that important? Again, getting back to what I talked about a couple of weeks ago on the Aligning with Success, 2 weeks ago. If you haven't seen it, please watch it. I talked about structure leads to belief. This is a document that came from a graduate, I can't remember of where, but he was a Nobel laureate. So structure leads to belief. Belief leads to behavior. Behavior leads to results. Results are either in alignment or out of alignment with our personal vision. And that's either going to be a fulfilling or unfulfilling sense of purpose. Now, what happens then in real life is we're born. And into the structures of life we're born. Our society, our family, our language, our culture, our socioeconomic status, etc. We're born into structures. And in order to fit in, which is the primary mandate of an infant up until about the age of 6, until maybe the terrible 2s, but really until the age of 6, you have to adopt the belief systems of what those structures are imparting, or you will be rejected. Example, the simplest one is ideological beliefs, such as religion and so forth. If you don't buy into those beliefs, if you don't adhere to them, adopt them, then you'll be ostracized. So we accept and we adopt the beliefs. Let's say your family had issues about money. Well, they're going to have certain beliefs about money. With those intrinsic beliefs, which are the program operating on our subconscious mind, 95% of all our behavior is controlled by these beliefs, which produce results. Every action has a reaction or a consequence, which is results. Now, many people start life with all this ambition and, they want so much out of life. But then as they're starting to experience the results that they're getting are not nearly as great as maybe the vision that they had for themselves early on in life. Their vision of being able to live a certain way, their vision of being popular, etc. Their experience, which is the results that they're getting, are inconsistent with the vision. And they wonder why. And then they start to look at themselves and become self-sabotaging, which essentially means rather than raising their awareness, they reduce their vision. Take that forward 20 years. And we call that a rut, where people's results and their vision are exactly the same. They really lack vision because their results have now taught them that, well, this is just the way it is. That's life. And what do they do to reassure themselves that that's okay to believe that? They look to their neighbors, to the left, to the right, and they basically associate with birds of a feather, and they say, that's life, that's our lot in life, and so forth. And so people become complacent and live what we call an ordinary life. What is ordinary about that? It's just common. That's what it is. And what is common is that people lost their sense of purpose, lost their vision, and now their results, their vision are one and the same, and they're just existing. They're basically living life. And all of this is based on what? Those behaviors that are causing them to act or not act in a way that's consistent with what they really want. And what's driving that? The beliefs that are inherent in their program, their paradigms. And where did all this come from? The structures they were born in and adopted as they were growing up. Now, if we did life in reverse, if that's what we were taught, which is really the spiritual journey, you begin with the end in mind. And the end in mind is not where am I going? It's purpose. Why am I going where I'm going? It's my reason to be, purpose. It can look very different for different people, even though we may share a common reason to be. Our reason to be, for instance, how about this one? Balanced in the 5 pillars of wellness. There's a reason to be. That's a beautiful ideal. So success, as Earl Nightingale pointed out, is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal, and an ideal is not a destination. It's a direction. So this is a beautiful guidance system, the Nikan 5 pillars of wellness. We're moving towards something, an ideal, which is a balanced life, productive, balanced, abundant in these 5 pillars of wellness. That's our worthy ideal. Now, working backwards from that, each one in this phone call has a different perception of what it looks like. Vision is what you can see in your mind's eye. You all have done this exercise. I hope you created a storyboard or a vision board or life cycle plan. Same thing, pictures on the wall that describe your ideal life. Meaning, if you were living your ideal, if you were living on purpose, your life would look a certain way. And you can encapsulate that in photos and pictures that, emulate that for you. So that would be our vision. Everyone has their own sense of what that is. Now, what would be the milestones leading to that vision? If you're a NICAN, clearly, as you progress in the NICAN compensation plan, as been evidenced by so many people who've done it, and especially the abundance of rank advancements we're seeing for the month of November, these are people who are moving toward an ideal life. They are advancing, they're progressing, and therefore they are by definition a success. Their results in terms of their movement forward in the NICAN compensation plan is in perfect alignment with their vision of an ideal life and their sense of purpose. That's the beauty of NICAN, that it is aligned with the innate nature of a human being. Well, going backwards from there then, these milestones that they've been achieving, whether it's silver, gold, platinum, diamond, royal diamond, these are all milestones. These are all results, and therefore are milestones toward the realization and fulfillment of vision and purpose. Well then, if these milestones are, for instance, destinations on the journey of the GPS, you don't stop at the restaurant and just remain there. You don't go to the bathroom and just stay there. It's just a stop on the journey. You get back in the car and you keep going in the direction where the GPS is pointing. So these milestones are not parking lots for you to stay comfortable at. They're just destinations along the way, but we need to have them and we need to set a course for them. But the one thing I've learned is begin with the end in mind. So the ideal success scenario in NICAN is working toward a royal diamond ship, which therefore will provide an incredible lifestyle in all 5 areas of life. And therefore the milestones are the advancements that we make in the compensation plan, which should be objectives, goals, things you actually seek to attain and work in concert with others to do so. Now, in order for you to be comfortable with that process of actually setting and attaining goals, milestones, results, you have to behave in a certain manner that's consistent with that. And maybe until now, you haven't been consistent with that. Although there are some people on this call, Madeline Zaworski, for instance, who's one of our first to achieve Team Kaizen for this year. And this is a person whose behavior is very consistent and in perfect alignment with her objective and her vision and her purpose. So you can tell when somebody is on fire and alive with life because there's no inconsistency there. So the behavior is consistent. Well, if your behavior is inconsistent with what it is you're seeking, then you might say to yourself, I don't know. I don't know why I don't do this. I don't understand. Well, the answer is really simple. You must be believing certain things to be true about yourself and others that are actually getting in the way of behaving in a manner that's consistent with what you want. It may be hard for you to identify what those beliefs are. And hence the personal development work that we do are very important. The books you read, the people you associate with, these are all clues. Success leaves clues, as my friend and author of The 4-Year Career, Richard Brooks, says. Success leaves clues. And so you want to start following those clues by associating with people who believe success is attainable. And even for you, they'll tell you it's possible for you as well.
All of a sudden you can hear.
Sorry, we got some more interference on this call.
And the doctors are still calling.
Hello.
It looks like 163.
Yeah, in order for me to get to that person, I got to scroll through.
1630.
Give me 1 second. All right. We really ought to teach people protocols if they're going to be on a Zoom call. So if you've got people joining that call, and if you know that what that number is, then please indicate to them there's a protocol for joining a call. And I want to get to my point, but I've got another person who's...
Mike, if you want to give me co-host, I can mute them for you.
Oh, that would be excellent. So let me find you. Because when I'm sharing screen, I don't get the same...
Yeah, I can take care of that for
Give
you.
me a second. And you are now called. And I've got that one. Okay, let me get back to this. So again, identifying what it is that's blocking us is not the easiest thing to do, but it's important that we at least make some attempt at circumventing the beliefs that are getting in the way. And the best way to do that is to enforce the beliefs or reinforce the beliefs that we need to adopt that move us in the right direction. So identify with those beliefs and others who have those beliefs. What is it that you believe to be true about yourself and others that makes it possible for you to go out every single day and talk to somebody new? What do you believe about you and others that makes that possible? Because that's a behavior that's consistent with what it is that success looks like in NICAN. That's an example. What do you believe to be true about the products? What do you believe to be true about network marketing, etc.? So when we quantify these beliefs, when we take stock of it, then we know where we need to develop, where we need to work, because ultimately that's where the work has to go. Now, the structure is what you will adopt or what you will create that supports the development of those beliefs. So being on this call, being on Aligning with Success, being in NICAN, attending Humans Being More, attending the main events, etc., plugging into the reading material. These are all structures that enable you to develop those core beliefs, water and nurture those beliefs that will move you in the direction that you want to go. And what will happen is, as you start to affirm those beliefs, the ones that have been blocking you become quieter and quieter voices. Although at first, they're going to shout at you. But with time and repetition, even a drip of water can cut a stone. So with time and repetition, reinforcing the right beliefs, turning those into affirmative statements. I am a great speaker. People love to hear me. Those affirmations are conditioning your mind physically, mentally, emotionally, on a subconscious level as well, to a truth that you are now adopting, which means you're watering the good plant, and the one that's not serving you will die away in the background. And it helps to have people around you, surrounding you, who support those beliefs. And it does not help to surround yourself continually with people who've been anti those beliefs. People who don't see your success in NICAN as imminent are not helpful. So spend less time interacting on that level with those individuals. So now, belief then becomes critical to the development, which is why we've got purpose, which keeps us aimed and pointed in the direction we want to go. And the second part is taking stock of what our beliefs are doing. Are we moving in the right direction where they're concerned? Do we have them lined up with purpose? So this tool is absolutely fundamental, foundational to success, period, and specifically within the context of NICAN. So let's take stock. Go ahead and write on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being your ideal condition where your health in your body is concerned, or your mind, family, society, and finances. Write a number down. Today, if you've done HBM, you know we do this. Then take the number and ask yourself, where do you want to be 90 days from now? Go ahead, write this down, do it. And then ask yourself the same thing, where do you want that number to be 1 year from now? Okay? Now, in about a month's time, you can do this again, but literally within 90 days, you're going to see that fourth column there, 90 days ago. You're going to be able to reflect on what it was 90 days ago, where you were at 90 days ago. And you can see how 90 days can literally transform lives. It just takes 90 days to completely change the trajectory of one's life. But if we're not measuring, then we have absolutely no idea where we're heading. If the GPS wasn't constantly repositioning and checking where you were at relative to where you want to go, you would never get to where you want to go. If the GPS on an airplane wasn't doing the same thing, it would never get you to the destination. But what's important to note is it's always in the process of making course corrections. It's always measuring. And so if we were to take and make a habit of measuring what matters and comparing it to where we were at before, we will quickly find out where we need to work and where the resources are to keep us moving in the right direction. If this was all you did every 90 days, you did it with yourself, you did it with your teammates, you did it with your family members. Where would you be 90 days from now, a year from now, 5 years from now? Again, if you don't measure it, it doesn't really matter. You're kidding yourself. But what you measure matters. If you take stock, measure it, and refine it, it's going to move you in the direction you want to go. Now, it also forms, by the way, your success story. As you measure the progress, you will realize that you're making progress in different ways than maybe you initially expected. And that will become part of your success story. You know, they say hindsight is 20/20. You'll be able to look in the past and say, oh, well, you know, this is what I thought I was doing, but here's what I discovered. Here's what's happened to me. Here's what's changed in my life. And what's important to note is it's all 5 areas of wellness. It's not just one. Our distinct place in the universe is the 5 pillars of wellness. Nobody else is measuring that. And that's how we define success. So if you want to stand out against any other network marketing opportunity or any other opportunity out there, this is how you stand out. When your story reveals to the person you're talking to that there are 5 facets to life that we adopt, we adhere to, we measure, and we express. So now let's move to how do we move in the right direction? We've got to work on those beliefs. So here are the categories that often are looked at. The belief in the company. Go ahead, measure it. What's your belief in Nikken on a scale of 1 to 5? What is your belief in these products, the Nikken product line, and its ability to be able to modify your success? What about the industry? There's 2 industries that we're definitively involved in. One is wellness. Is it moving in the right direction? You know, this was published in 2005. Can you imagine in 2005 and where we are today, just looking back 15 years, how far the wellness industry has come? Let's look at network marketing. Where's your belief in network marketing on a scale of 1 to 5? And I wouldn't be surprised for most of you if it's a 1 or a 2, maybe a 3. Few of you might be a 4 or a 5. Few of you. What do you think if you asked me? What if you asked those new diamonds and royal diamonds in Latin America? What do you think their belief is? So clearly what we believe to be true about ourselves and others is a reflection, is reflected in our behavior. And if you want to improve your behavior so that's more in alignment with the success here, you've got to deal with it. So what can you do to improve your behavior? Well, read this book for your career. Read this book, Go Pro. Read this book, Mach 2 with Your Hair on Fire. These are books I've been recommending, others have been recommending as a real starting point for developing an understanding, appreciation, and belief in network marketing. How about more association with events of that kind? Virtual Go Pro coming up next weekend, will be an astonishing opportunity for those of you who really want to work on your belief there. Because you'll meet people whose belief are 10 out of 5. And you'll see that it reflects in their success. Now, lastly, what is your belief in yourself as an apprentice, coach, and mentor? Apprentice, meaning your ability to learn the system. Coach, your ability to teach others the system. And mentor, your ability to lead others in this Nikken wellness system. Now, these are very important points because this is a reflection of where you feel your competence is or where it may be lacking. And therefore, your development as an apprentice, your development as a coach, your development as a mentor, and having these people in your life. Who's coaching you if you're an apprentice? Who's mentoring you if you're a coach? So this is revealing because now you got to actually do some homework, find some people to connect with that can help you move those numbers to the right. And lastly, the wellness track here is a reflection of the system that I developed. But essentially, let's refer to it for the moment as the Nikken wellness track, the whole Nikken wellness experience, your ability to be involved in an association, an organization, and a community that is about wellness in the 5 areas of wellness. And the systems and the tools that have been provided to facilitate our development in those areas. What's your belief in that? Do you identify with the protocol, the system? Do you know what the pipeline is, etc.? If these are things that are question marks in your mind, then if your belief is low in this area because you don't think you can guide people through the system, then you need to learn what the system is and get to know somebody who knows. Last night we interviewed Madeline Zaworski, who's our first Team Kaizen winner this year, and you might learn a bunch of stuff just listening to that call from last night's Aligning with Success. So as I suggest, this is an important exercise you do with regularity at least every month, and share the results with your coach and mentor. Hopefully you guys took stock of this as we've been going through this for yourselves. And it's giving you a glimpse into the areas that you need to work on and develop. So when people are talking about the work, what's the real work? The real work is inside, because you will naturally do outside what you're comfortable with inside. If you're not comfortable with talking to people because you're afraid of what they might think, how far do you think you're going to go in a business that relies on your ability to talk to people? So it's very important we take stock, and don't give up. Don't say, oh, I'm lousy at this. That means I'm no good. No, you have enough examples in Nikan to know if anyone can do it, everyone can do it. Therefore, it can be learned.
Michael.
It can be learned. Yes, Madeline.
Okay, let's pick up from last night. I'm going to put you on the spot to be a super A here. Where it says iPad, I have Mary Hendricks, who I met Sunday. And Barbara Richmond was doing an A prior to the call. And why don't you pick up? And Mary just heard a little bit about the 5 pillars before you came on earlier with me today. And just pick up and ask her what she might have learned, see what she has to say.
All right. I can't see here. Let me just switch over here.
Mary, you need to unmute your mic, Mary.
I can do that.
Okay.
I can ask, I've asked her to unmute, but I don't know if she can. She's on the iPad.
And you just be you. I'm going to be a quiet B.
Well, we are difficult in our tech. We may have to pick this up on a different call, Madeline, because we are up on our time. And
I think it'd be valuable for everybody from what we said and what we did last night. If people can take a few more minutes. The iron is hot.
Oh, there she is.
Okay.
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 All right. A lot of it bleeped in and out, but I certainly learned a lot. I need to learn a lot. What did I learn out of it? Most what I could take out of it, I tried to just take a few points, but most importantly was to define my purpose before I go any further.
Wonderful.
So I would say that was something that really made me like, I got to chew on that.
Now, what I can say to you is there's a course that Nikan offers called Humans Being More. And it's short. Now we have an online course that's maybe 5 hours online, and that will help you explore this in a richer context, so that you're not just, alone trying to figure this out, but it'll create a little bit more context for you to actually delve in and hear the discussion, because this is such a salient point. If we begin with the end in mind and we don't know what that looks like, what that is, then we're just shooting in the dark, and it's very easy to get lost. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, and actually I've read spiritual writers who have always said that, and so I kind of grabbed that when you said that. I was like, how could I have forgotten that? So very important.
Michael, last night we were talking about creating conversations, and you asked me how many people I contact today. So ask Mary how she met me.
How did you meet Madeline, Mary? Am I guessing a line in a grocery store or something?
Oh, Mary, how did you meet me? She's having...
I'm at your church.
Oh, at church. Okay.
But she was a guest. I was there before the liturgy decorating a tree, and when I walked out, she's in the back row with her oxygen on. So guess what Nurse Madeline approached her with? And then I came back. Mary,
you were a
tell the story.
sweetheart.
Well, you just tell me the story, not a sweetheart. So from Sunday then until now, what do you have with you? What happened? How many times?
I have noticed an improvement, a slight improvement, and
but how many contacts have we? How many contacts have we had?
Every day.
Okay, so what I learned about Mary is that she worked for our local journal as a sales promotion person, and she was
years ago. And
she's younger than me. You're younger than me. Here's what I learned, and Mary, you validate it. I listen too. So she was a runner, very active, now has COPD, doesn't like being constrained. She's very creative. She's interested in the healthcare system. She's somewhat limited in income. She loves learning, personal development.
So
And-
let me encapsulate that, because we do have to end this call. Mary, I think what Madeline's trying to get to is she took the time to learn about who you were, where you were at in your 5 areas of wellness, your 5 pillars of wellness, to see if she could make some connection with you personally, and then a connection to whether or not you saw for yourself a better future, in which
Well-
point Weekend becomes a means, a mechanism.
Actually, the minute I met her, I felt like she was an angel sent from God.
Because she is. Because we all are. All right. Thank you so much for contributing, everybody. Thanks for
Thank
joining.
you.
Please utilize this tool for yourself. See how it works for you, because I think that this is one of the missing pieces, is taking stock, measuring what matters, and then sharing it so we can multiply it. Thanks, everybody. See you on the Nican Highway.